I'd like to now introduce Michael O'Keefe from Capral Aluminium. With an engineering background in civil aviation, Michael joined the building and construction industry in 1994. During his tenure at Australian Window Systems between 2004 and 17, Michael served on the Australian Window Association Technical Committee for 6 years, sitting on several Australian standards committees as well. In 2011, Michael was elected to the Australian Window Association Board of Directors, serving a 4-year term, including two years as chairman of the board. In 2017, Michael joined Capral Aluminium as general manager of marketing and technology, driving corporate strategy and product innovation, including steering Capral's sustainability roadmap and journey towards a circular economy. Would you please welcome Michael?
Not used to holding one of these, but I'll see how I go. Thanks, Jeff, and good afternoon, everybody. And firstly, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people, and thanks for inviting me to speak today. Okay, Capral is Australia's largest provider of aluminium products. We offer an expansive range of aluminium extrusions, including customer exclusive profiles, many of those used in curtain walls that Kira was just talking about. We also offer a comprehensively tested range of window and door systems for the built environment. Our national footprint enables us to work with customers across a range of industries throughout Australia. And just a bit of a snapshot there to put it in perspective, you can see Capral is about 65,000 tonne of extrusion of aluminium per year. We employ over 1,000 people, including contractors, and we currently hold about 26% of the market in relation to aluminium products. We operate a national network of distribution centres, currently supported by 8 extrusion presses, with the capability to produce different shapes and sizes from those used essentially in a small residential window, right up to those used in a heavy-duty high-rise curtain wall system, as we've seen in some of those early examples. Our largest press, a 12-inch press, can manufacture shapes with a cross-section that fits within a diameter of about 420 millimetres. And to put that into perspective in CO2 tonnes, a shape like that can carry a per metre weight of about 27 kilograms. So considerable embodied carbon, as you can imagine. And sections like that are mostly found in the marine sector or the transport sector and some of the very large sections. To support the commercial and residential construction sector, Capral offers a number of proprietary window and door and glazing systems being fabricated and installed locally by a national network of independently owned and operated fabricated businesses. So Capral doesn't actually manufacture windows. Capral designs the systems, and the channels to market are normally little SMEs or larger fabrication businesses that do supply and store contracts. Capral does, however, design all its systems in Australia, and it tests and documents all its systems in its Melbourne-based Technology Solutions Centre at Campbellfield in Victoria. These next few pictures that I'll scroll through not only showcase the style of projects that Capral becomes involved in, but it also emphasises the broad base of inquiry that Capral is now receiving about green aluminium. From architects, designers, contracts administrators, procurement departments, from all industry sectors, I must add. Capral receives inquiries almost on a daily basis about the embodied carbon content of our primary aluminium. They inquire about our sustainable procurement practices. They ask about our upstream and downstream chain of custody relationships. And 2022 has seen this lift of inquiries exponentially move. So it's a very important space for Capral at the moment, which brings me to this one. So why does sustainability matter to Capral? Well, as a business, Capral recognises that in a world that's affected by global sustainability issues, from climate change to biodiversity, that we have to now act and protect the community and the environment whilst working with our shareholders and stakeholders. Achieving a high sustainability standard is no longer optional for Capral, it's now the norm. And we recognise that our buying strategies, our in-house policies and our corporate activities must now demonstrate our ambition and commitment to essentially the 3 Ps, the planet, the people and the prosperity. Sustainability is important to Capral because we recognise that these sustainable decisions will underpin a future success of our business and our ability to remain competitive and relevant in a circular economy, which I think is moving towards us very, very quickly. So accordingly, Capral has now announced that it has committed to reach net zero emissions by 2050. The target is based on achieving Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions and is underpinned by emerging and breakthrough technologies. We have an absolute commitment to our staff, customers, shareholders, and the communities in which we operate to ensure that we're eliminating our source of emissions within the value chains that we also operate. I think Capral is really no different, excuse me, to any other organisation. I think it's time that the shift to circular economy has come, and Capral is going to lead the way and is very confident that we can achieve this. So how are we going to do it? Whoop, that one's gone too far. Go back one. So Capral's got a sustainability journey, and the first part of that journey is working with our suppliers to source and procure the most sustainable input materials that we can possibly find. And we're quite well progressed in this space. Part two is to look at our in-house processes and procedures, our scheduled investment into plant and equipment and how we can make that more efficient, to engage the hearts and minds of our people and embrace a sustainability roadmap, because it's not just about what we plug into the system, it's what we're doing with inside our own businesses that matters in the journey to sustainability. And the big one is our partnerships. What are our upstream and downstream partnerships? How do we engage through chain of custody activities? And how do we collaborate towards a circular economy? So just a little bit more detail on those. Capral looks to source low embodied primary aluminium billet, or the greenest aluminium we can. And we do that on a daily basis to ensure that the actual manufacturing journey of Capral's starts with the lowest CO2 emissions per tonne of aluminium that we can find. A good example of this is working with one upstream partner in particular. Capral's recently signed an agreement with Tomago Aluminium, Australia's largest aluminium smelter, where Capral will now supply approximately 550 tonne of post-production scrap annually for remelting. This is an industry-leading arrangement and the first of its kind within Australia, paving the way for Capral to help Australia with its supply of low-carbon aluminium for manufacturers going forward. The Aluminium Re-Melt, in this case, is the secondary recycling of aluminium. So it's the scrap that we receive through our extrusion process, the fall down from our extrusion process. We send that back on to Tomago. It's remelted. They then blend it back into either ingot or back into primary billet, and then it finds its way back into the market, and then it has a certain level of percentage. That percentage is measured depending on what sort of alloy you're looking to achieve and where that particular primary aluminium is going to find its way in the future, into what sort of project and what the particular specifications of that project are. While scrap aluminium has long been collected for recycling in Australia, it's only up until recently that we've had a more safe and successful remelting process come into play. Therefore, you might be interested to know that 95% of Australia's collected scrap aluminium is exported for recycling. So I guess that presents an enormous opportunity for lowering the embodied carbon in our aluminium in Australia. So we feel this is a very critical step for Capral and Tomago. Let's call it Capral's first step towards a circular aluminium basis. We're excited to embark on this particular journey with Tomago, and we really look forward to being able to deliver more low carbon aluminium into the Australian built environment. The other area that's important to Capral is our own roadmap. It's part two, and we recognise that this journey has to be embarked upon by not only our stakeholders and our shareholders, but everybody involved. So we've launched our own sustainability roadmap. This is very important within our business because as a major extruder, or Australia's biggest extruder, we consume enormous amounts of electricity and enormous amounts of gas in the process. So we've identified 4 sustainability pathways within Capral, inclusive of our operational considerations, where our teams can adopt and implement changes and have the ownership of those changes to make areas of real tangible difference within the areas of the business that they operate. At a manufacturing level, just for some examples, at a manufacturing level with relation to energy, we, through our scheduled plant maintenance, we're introducing things like variable speed motors and low harmonic drives. This is to lessen the amount of energy it takes to extrude and run the presses. Additionally, we're just in the process of commissioning a renewable energy installation into our Melbourne facility, which will be the Victorian grid of approximately 19% of the site's consumption of electricity. and we're currently doing feasibility assessments on all our other sites for future solar installations, because we see the importance of this particular topic that we're talking about today. Additionally, from a circular economy perspective, at a distribution level, we're standardizing materials, particularly our packaging, because anyone that's unpacked curtain walls or facades, the packaging is horrendous, because aluminium is known as ugly freight. It's very easy to damage, so it's very heavily packaged by the freight companies. So we're standardizing a lot of that particular packaging so that it can be recycled, reused, and repurposed across all of our regional distribution centers. So that standardizing allows one site to use it similar to another site, and then it gets a very good life cycle in relation to it. Additionally, we're starting to move our warehouses to a paper-free or almost a paperless environment, where we're looking at issues like sign-on glass for manifests and for proof of deliveries. So a lot of work going on inside the business as well. Moving back to the position that we have with our industry partners, this is the big one for us. As Australia's largest supplier of extruded aluminium Capral products, we recognise the importance of ensuring sustainability issues and operations are aligned with leading industry benchmarks. So to that end, Capral has recently joined the Aluminium Stewardship initiative. For those that aren't 100% aware of what ASI is, it's a global initiative backed by an assurance program in which a company like Capral can deliver on sustainability commitments and transparency and credibility. So classic example is Kiera's talking about that tender process where you bring your contractors in to talk. If they can demonstrate that the aluminium they're using within their business is ASI certified, that whole consultation process starts to gain momentum in relation to low carbon aluminium. The ASI certification process is an assurance process against two standards, one known as a performance standard and one known as a chain of custody standard. The performance standard defines environmental, social, governance principles and the criteria that addresses sustainability issues in the aluminium value chain. The chain of custody standard, which is the one that we've very good for Capral, sets out the requirements for providing independent assurance of responsible production and procurement of aluminium, and also allows for what's called the mass balance system implementation, where you can work with partners upstream and downstream that also have ASI certification. So architects, designers, engineers, and manufacturers, tradespeople on a daily basis are increasingly wanting to know where Capral sources its aluminium from, how green it is, and we believe that joining ASI will give us the transparency and the credibility to ensure that we can demonstrate to those customers of ours and our stakeholders that that we are really starting to move towards low carbon aluminium. And I guess finally, something that's dear to Capral's heart is we also recognise the overarching safeguard of the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. The SDGs are a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for the people and the planet. Capral endorses these, and we implement environmental and social safeguards within our operations on a daily basis to ensure that we develop a position as a socially, environmentally aware organisation, which I think is part of the whole equation from not just aluminium, but the way a business behaves and its responsible position in this particular space. So in closing, I'd also just like to add that Capral's only a very recent member of the MECLA Alliance, but we're extremely excited to be a member, and it's terrific what we're already starting to learn from the businesses that we're engaging with, and we look forward to continuing to have a voice and add some input where we can in relation to, I guess, the supply side of things and the extrusion end of the business. So that's it. Thank you.